The notification arrived on every human device simultaneously at 1437 Universal Standard Time. Not through any earthly network, but burned directly into screens, retinas, and neural implants alike by technology that shouldn't exist. Galactic Confederation Decree 2157.9 Species, Homo sapiens sapiens designation, terminated effective immediately, Earth quarantined enforcement, total 12 trillion beings across 47,000 worlds had voted. The decision was unanimous among every species that mattered. Humanity was out. What they didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this exact moment for 300 years. And, when Earth went dark, the galaxy was about to learn why you never corner something with nothing left to lose. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Damascus Steel, watching Earth's blue marble shrink in the viewscreen. The planet looked peaceful from this distance. Beautiful, even. You couldn't see the orbital blockade from here, couldn't see the alien warships forming a perfect sphere around humanity's homeworld like antibodies around an infection. Sensors are picking up movement in Sector 7, Lieutenant Rodriguez called from the bridge below. His voice cracked slightly. The kid was barely 25, fresh from the academy that no longer existed. Looks like another patrol sweep. Chen didn't move from the viewport. She'd been watching for 3 days now, ever since the vote came down. Ever since 12 trillion galactic citizens decided that humanity was too dangerous to share the cosmos with. The irony wasn't lost on her. The Galactic Confederation had invited Earth to join 2 centuries ago. Back then, humanity had been thrilled. First contact with benevolent aliens. Advanced technology. Peace among the stars. What could go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. Humans had always been different. While other species spent millennia developing single technologies, humans threw everything at a wall to see what stuck. While aliens specialized, humans generalized. While the galaxy moved at the steady pace of consensus and committee, humans moved like wildfire. Within 50 years, human colonies existed on 600 worlds. Within a century, human trade routes connected star systems that had never spoken to each other. Within a century and a half, humans had accidentally triggered 3 separate technological revolutions and 1 philosophical renaissance. The galaxy had begun to notice. "Admiral," came another voice over the calm. This one was older, steadier. Commander Marcus Webb, her first officer and oldest friend. "The Serenity is requesting permission to break formation. Captain Hassan says his crew is getting restless." Chen finally turned from the viewport. The observation deck was empty except for her, its curved walls lined with monitors showing tactical displays, star charts, and communication feeds. Everything was painted in the soft blue glow of emergency lighting. They'd been running silent for 72 hours now. "Tell Hassan to hold position," she said. "We wait until the signal." "Ma'am, with respect, some of the younger captains are questioning whether the signal will ever come. The blockade is complete. Earth is cut off. Maybe it's time to consider what?" Shen's voice carried the weight of absolute command. "Running? Finding some nice empty system where we can hide and pretend we're not human anymore?" Webb was quiet for a moment. Through the calm, she could hear the bridge activity of the Serenity. Muffled conversations, the beep of instruments, the hum of life support. Sounds of a crew trying to stay busy while their world ended. "The crews are scared," Webb said finally. "Hell, I'm scared. We've got 47 ships out here, Sarah. 47 against the entire galaxy. The Confederation fleet has over 10,000 vessels in the blockade alone." Chen walked to the command console and pulled up the tactical display. 47 ships indeed. The remnants of the Earth Defense Fleet, scattered across 3 sectors of space when the vote came down. Most of the fleet had been on patrol or convoy duty when the Confederation delivered their ultimatum. Return to Earth immediately for processing, or be hunted down as galactic criminals. None of them had gone home. "You know what the processing would have been," Chen said, studying the fleet positions. "The Altarians suggested memory modification. The Zephyrite wanted us relocated to prison worlds. The vegan collective pushed for simple execution. She highlighted each ship on the display as she spoke. Destroyers, cruisers, supply vessels, even 3 massive dreadnoughts that had been Chen's pride and joy before this all started. The vote wasn't about punishment, she continued. It was about extermination. Clean and efficient and bureaucratically approved by 12 trillion beings who've decided we're too dangerous to exist. Through the viewscreen, another patrol passed by. Sleek Altarian interceptors, moving in perfect formation. Their ships looked like they'd been grown rather than built, all curves and organic lines. Beautiful, in their way. Chen had always appreciated alien ship design before this. Now she found their perfection somehow obscene. Contact from the Meridian, Rodriguez called. Captain Torres is reporting strange readings from the edge of the system. Could be long-range scanners picking up something? Chen frowned. The edge of the Sol system was supposedly empty. The Confederation had been thorough in their blockade, but they'd focused on the inner system where Earth and the major colonies were located. Anything past Jupiter was considered irrelevant. Put me through to Torres, she said, activating her command chair's communication array. Captain Elena Torres's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, like all of them did. 3 days of tension and grief had worn everyone down. But her eyes were alert, focused. Admiral, we're picking up multiple contacts moving in from the Kuiper Belt. Whatever they are, they're big. And they're moving fast. How big? Chen asked. Bigger than anything in our database. We're talking vessels in the 15-kilometer range. Maybe larger. Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. 15 kilometers was dreadnought scale. The largest ships humanity had ever built topped out at 3 kilometers. The Confederation vessels in the blockade were maybe 5 kilometers at most. Are they Confederation ships? She asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Negative. Design is completely unknown. And, Admiral? Torres paused, checking her readouts again. They're broadcasting human identification codes. The bridge fell silent. Even through the calm, Chen could hear the stunned quiet on the other ships. Human identification codes from ships that humanity had supposedly never built. How many contacts? Chen asked. Difficult to say. Sensors are having trouble getting a clear read. But I'm counting at least 200 discrete signals. Maybe more. 200 ships. Ships larger than anything in the human fleet. Ships that shouldn't exist. Chen closed her eyes and allowed herself a small smile. After 3 days of despair, after watching her world die from a distance, she finally understood. The signal Webb had mentioned, the signal she'd told them all to wait for, this was it. All ships, she said, opening a fleet-wide channel. Prepared to receive a priority transmission. And power up weapons systems. It looks like the real Earth defense fleet is about to arrive. The comm crackled as 47 captains tried to speak at once. Chen cut them off with a gesture. 300 years ago, when Earth first made contact with the Confederation, a small group of human scientists and military planners asked a simple question. What if they don't like us? What if first contact goes wrong? And, instead of hoping for the best, they decided to prepare for the worst. She pulled up another display, this one showing star charts of the outer system. For decades, astronomers had noted strange irregularities in the Kuiper Belt. Objects that moved wrong, reflected light oddly, or disappeared entirely from telescopic observation. The scientific community had attributed it to measurement errors or natural phenomena. They'd been wrong. Project Damocles, Chen said. The most classified military operation in human history. For 3 centuries, while we played nice with the galaxy, while we followed Confederation law and attended their committees and voted in their assemblies, we were also building a shadow fleet. The first contacts appeared on long-range sensors. Massive shapes emerging from the dark between worlds, their hulls black as space itself until running lights began to flicker on. Ships that had been built in secret facilities carved from asteroids, powered by fusion reactors that had been labeled as mining equipment, armed with weapons that existed in no official database. Ships built from technology we officially never developed, Chen continued. Crewed by people who officially never existed. Hidden beyond the edge of mapped space and facilities that officially were never constructed. The lead vessel was enormous. As it drew closer, its dimensions became clear: 18 kilometers of matte black hull bristling with weapons systems that looked nothing like standard human design. The ship's lines were aggressive, predatory, built for war rather than exploration. The Confederation wanted to vote us out of the galaxy, Chen said, watching the Shadow Fleet emerge from hiding. They're about to learn that the galaxy was never big enough to contain us anyway. The massive ship was close enough now to read its designation. Painted in small letters along the hull, almost invisible against the black metal, UNSF Retribution. "This is Admiral Harrison Chase of the United Nations Shadow Fleet," came a new voice over the communications array. The voice was calm, measured, with just a hint of satisfaction. "Apologies for the delay, Admiral Chen. We've been waiting 300 years for permission to come home." Chen looked out at the gathering fleet. 47 official Earth defense ships, and now over 200 vessels that existed in no public record. Ships that had been built in the dark spaces between worlds by people who had believed, correctly as it turned out, that the galaxy might someday decide humanity was too dangerous to tolerate. "Permission granted, Admiral Chase," she said. "Welcome to the Sol Defense Perimeter." As the Shadow Fleet took positions around Chen's smaller force, their true numbers became apparent. Not 200 ships. More like 400. Destroyers and cruisers and ships of classes that didn't appear in any manual. All of them dark, all of them deadly, all of them crewed by humans who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. The Confederation blockade was about to face an enemy they hadn't known existed. Chen opened a final channel, broadcasting to every ship in both fleets. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chen. Today, 12 trillion beings voted to remove humanity from the galaxy. They seem to have forgotten that we never asked for their permission to be here in the first place." Through the viewscreen, she could see the first Confederation patrol beginning to notice the new arrivals. Alien ships changing course, weapons powering up, emergency broadcasts flooding the comm channels. "Today we remind them," Chen said, "that humans don't need votes or committees or permission slips to go where we please. Today we show them what happens when you try to cage something that was born free." The Shadow Fleet began to move. The first shot came from the Altarian flagship Peaceful Convergence. A brilliant lance of plasma that would have vaporized any standard human vessel. Instead, it struck the deflector grid of the shadow ship Vindication and scattered into harmless light. "Interesting," Admiral Chase commented from the Retribution's bridge. His voice carried across the fleet channels with the calm of someone who had spent decades waiting for this exact moment. "Their targeting systems seem to be having difficulty with our hulls." Chen watched from the Damascus steel as the battle unfolded. It wasn't really a battle. It was a demonstration. The Confederation forces had formed a perfect defensive sphere around Earth, exactly as their tactical manuals recommended. Each ship positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire, sensor coverage, and mutual support. It was textbook fleet coordination, the kind taught at military academies across 100 worlds. The Shadow Fleet ignored it entirely. Instead of attacking the sphere directly, they moved in patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Ships that massed 15,000 tons executing turns that would have pulped any crew under conventional gravity. Vessels that appeared on sensors, vanished, and reappeared elsewhere without any visible means of faster-than-light travel. "How are they doing that?" Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered from his station. Chen had been wondering the same thing. The shadow ships moved like they were operating under completely different laws of physics. Not breaking those laws, human engineers weren't that good, but working around them in ways that suggested 3 centuries of very classified research. "Gravitational manipulation," Commander Webb said quietly. He'd been studying the tactical readouts with the intensity of someone trying to solve a puzzle. "Look at the sensor ghost patterns. They're not actually teleporting. They're creating localized gravity wells and riding them like..." He paused, searching for an analogy. Like surfers, Chen finished. Jesus Christ. They figured out how to surf spacetime. The Confederation fleet was adapting quickly, their commanders coordinating through quantum-encrypted channels. The Zephyrite vessels began dispersing, trying to eliminate the Shadow Fleet's tactical advantage through superior numbers. The vegan collective ships powered up their massive siege weapons, preparing to simply overwhelm the humans through raw firepower. It might have worked against a conventional enemy. Admiral Chase opened a channel to the Confederation flagship, a massive Altarian command ship designated as the Wisdom of Ages. His transmission went out on all frequencies, ensuring every vessel in the blockade could hear. Confederation Command, this is Admiral Harrison Chase of the United Nations Shadow Fleet. You have approximately 90 seconds to withdraw from the Sol system before we demonstrate why the galaxy voted us out. The response came quickly, in the melodious tones typical of Altarian diplomatic speech. Unknown human vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Confederation Decree 2157.9. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. Consequences, Chase repeated thoughtfully. How delightfully vague. Allow me to be more specific. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming there were any left to study it. The shadow ship designated Nemesis simply disappeared from all sensors. Not cloaked, cloaking technology left traces, sensor shadows, gravitational signatures. This was different. The ship ceased to exist in any measurable way, as if it had stepped sideways out of reality. 30 seconds later, the Confederation destroyer Eternal Peace exploded from the inside out. Its containment fields failed simultaneously, its power core detonated, and its hull cracked open like an egg. All without any visible weapon being fired. How? The Altarian commander began. 90 seconds, Chase interrupted. Now 87. The Confederation fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy weapons lit up space around Earth. Plasma cannons, particle beams, gravity weapons, and stranger things that defied easy classification. The combined firepower of 10,000 ships focused on 400 human vessels. The Shadow Fleet absorbed it all. Their hulls shimmered with defensive fields that shouldn't have been possible. Energy weapons were deflected by barriers that existed in folded space. Kinetic projectiles passed through ships as if they were holograms, only to rematerialize seconds later completely unharmed. Temporal displacement, Webb breathed, staring at his instruments. They're flickering in and out of the timestream. The weapons are hitting where the ships were, not where they are. Chen felt a cold pride settling in her chest. 300 years of secret research. 300 years of humanity's best and brightest working in hidden facilities, developing weapons and defenses that the galaxy had never imagined. While the Confederation had been playing politics, humans had been preparing for war. The counterattack came without warning. Shadow ships materialized inside the Confederation formation, having bypassed shields and defensive screens through methods that violated everything Chen thought she knew about physics. At point-blank range, they fired weapons that weren't quite energy and weren't quite matter, but something that existed in the spaces between. Confederation ships didn't explode. They simply ceased. Their atoms forgot how to hold together. Their energy patterns unraveled. Their existence became optional, and the universe chose no entropy weapons, Chen realized. They've weaponized thermodynamics. In less than 5 minutes, the outer ring of the Confederation blockade was gone. Not destroyed, gone. As if 10,000 years of starship evolution had been a dream that the cosmos was now choosing to forget. The remaining Confederation forces began to retreat. This is Admiral Tvara of the Wisdom of Ages, came the increasingly desperate transmission. Cease your attack immediately. We will open negotiations for your withdrawal. Chase's response was patient, almost gentle. Admiral Tvara, there appears to be some confusion. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to collect. Collect what? What you took from us. Our world. Our people. Our future. The Shadow Fleet began advancing on Earth itself. The remaining Confederation vessels found themselves unable to intercept. Every time they moved to block the human ships, the humans were somewhere else. Space seemed to bend around them, distance becoming meaningless. Chen watched the tactical display as the Shadow Fleet approached Earth's orbital infrastructure. The planet was still under Confederation control, its population of 9 billion held under martial law while the galaxy decided their fate. Orbital stations bristled with alien troops. Landing platforms held armies of occupation forces. The humans didn't bother with invasion. Instead, the largest shadow ship, something designated as the Ragnarok, positioned itself directly above Earth's North Pole and began broadcasting on every available frequency. Not just to Earth, but to every world in the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every communication relay within 1,000 light-years suddenly found itself receiving the same message. Citizens of the galaxy, Admiral Chase announced. You voted to remove humanity from the galactic community. You decided we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too disruptive to be allowed among civilized species. The transmission included full tactical recordings of the past hour. Every ship that had vanished. Every weapon that had failed. Every attempt at resistance that had been effortlessly countered. You were correct. Chase paused, letting that sink in across 12 trillion minds. For 3 centuries, we have accepted the constraints of galactic civilization. We have followed your laws, respected your boundaries, participated in your democratic processes. We did this not because we had to, but because we chose to. Because we believed that cooperation was preferable to conflict. Another pause. On the tactical display, Chen could see Confederation reinforcements beginning to arrive from nearby systems. Hundreds of additional ships, responding to emergency calls. All of them maintaining careful distance from the human fleet. You have now removed that option. The Shadow Fleet began deploying around Earth in a formation that Chen didn't recognize. Ships taking positions that made no tactical sense until she realized they weren't positioning for battle. They were positioning for something else entirely. We hereby withdraw from all Confederation treaties, agreements, and obligations. Human colonies on Confederation worlds have 72 hours to depart. All alien personnel on human worlds have the same deadline. After that time, human space will be considered sovereign territory. More ships were arriving now. Not just Confederation vessels, but observers from neutral systems. Independent traders. Even some of the more aggressive species that had remained outside the Confederation entirely. Word was spreading fast. You wish to remove us from the galaxy, Chase continued. Instead, you have created something far more dangerous. A humanity with nothing left to lose. The ships around Earth began to move in perfect synchronization, their hulls starting to glow with energies that registered on no known spectrum. Whatever they were building, it was massive. Planet-scale massive. We will be taking our world back now. Any attempt to interfere will be met with appropriate force. Chen realized what they were doing. The Shadow Fleet wasn't just positioned around Earth, they were forming a grid. A planetary-scale device that would somehow lift Earth itself out of Confederation space. That's impossible, Webb said, staring at the tactical display. They can't move an entire planet. The energy requirements alone. They'd had 300 years to work out the engineering problems, Chen reminded him. And, we've just seen what 300 years of human innovation looks like when nobody's watching. The first phase began with a sound that every human on Earth could feel in their bones. Not heard, felt. As if the planet itself was humming. Gravitational fields that had been stable for 4 billion years began to fluctuate. The moon's orbit shifted by fractions of degrees. Tides across Earth's oceans surged and receded in patterns that followed no natural rhythm. Planetary displacement, Chen breathed. They're actually going to steal Earth. Space around the planet began to distort. Not visibly, but in ways that sensors could detect. Reality was being convinced to bend, reality was being persuaded to look the other way while humans did something that violated every known law of astrophysics. The Confederation fleet hung back, weapons powered but not firing. What was the point of shooting at ships that could step sideways through time? What was the purpose of resistance when the enemy had apparently learned to edit physics itself? Displacement in 10 minutes, came Admiral Chase's voice across all channels. I suggest non-human vessels maintain a safe distance. We haven't tested this at full scale before. 10 minutes. Chen looked at Earth through the viewscreen, still blue, still beautiful, still home. In 10 minutes, it would be somewhere else entirely. Somewhere beyond the reach of galactic civilization. Somewhere humans could be human without apologizing for it. The countdown began, broadcast across the galaxy so that 12 trillion beings could watch humanity vote itself out of their universe. With prejudice. Reality broke at exactly 1647 Universal Standard Time. Admiral Chen felt it first as a sensation in her inner ear, like the moment before an earthquake when the world holds its breath. Then, every instrument on the Damascus steel began screaming warnings about gravitational anomalies, temporal distortions, and fundamental forces that were behaving in ways they had no right to behave. Earth vanished. Not explosively, not dramatically. One moment it was there, blue oceans, white clouds, 9 billion human souls looking up at the stars. The next moment, there was empty space where a planet had been. Empty space that rippled with aftershocks as the universe tried to figure out what had just happened to 4.5 billion years of accumulated gravity. Jesus Christ, Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered. They actually did it. The Confederation fleet hung motionless in the void, their sensors trying to process the impossible. Admiral Tvaray's flagship sent desperate scanning pulses into the space where Earth had been, as if they could somehow locate a missing planet through diligent searching. Admiral Chase's voice echoed across the suddenly empty solar system. Earth has been successfully relocated to Sector 7G Delta, approximately 40,000 light-years from galactic center. The Sol system is hereby claimed as human sovereign space. Any Confederation vessels remaining in this system after the next 60 minutes will be considered hostile. Chen pulled up star charts on her navigation display. Sector 7G Delta was beyond the galactic edge, in the cold dark between spiral arms. No trade routes, no habitable worlds, no strategic value whatsoever. It was exactly the kind of place you'd put something you never wanted to see again. Brilliant, she murmured. They didn't just steal Earth. They put it somewhere the galaxy can't follow. The Confederation forces were already beginning their withdrawal. What was the point of holding an empty solar system? What was the strategic value of occupying vacuum? They'd voted to remove humanity from galactic civilization, and humanity had simply taken their homeworld and left. But Chen knew this wasn't over. She'd spent enough time studying galactic politics to understand the implications. The Confederation couldn't let this stand. Couldn't allow the precedent. If one species could simply ignore galactic law and disappear with an entire planet, what was to stop others from doing the same? War was coming. Not the localized conflict they just witnessed, but something larger. Something that would reshape the galaxy itself. Her thoughts were interrupted by a priority transmission from the Retribution. Admiral Chen, this is Admiral Chase. Request permission to come aboard your vessel. We have matters to discuss. 20 minutes later, Chen found herself face to face with a man who shouldn't have existed. According to every official record, Harrison Chase had died in a training accident 45 years ago. Yet here he stood on her bridge, looking no older than 50 despite the impossibility of the timeline. Time dilation, he explained, noticing her stare. When you're running black projects at 99% of light speed, you age slower than the rest of the universe. Occupational hazard. Chase was tall, lean, with the kind of calm confidence that came from decades of commanding impossible missions. His uniform bore no insignia Chen recognized, black fabric that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Even standing still, he gave the impression of barely contained movement. The Shadow Fleet, Chen said. How long have you known this day would come? From the beginning, Chase replied without hesitation. First contact protocol included worst-case scenarios. What if they're hostile? What if they're territorial? What if they decide we don't belong? He moved to her view screen, looking out at the space where Earth had been. The optimists handled diplomacy. We handled preparation. 300 years of preparation. 300 years of assuming that anything that could go wrong would go wrong. And planning accordingly. Chase turned back to face her. The vote wasn't a surprise, Admiral. We've been watching Confederation politics for decades. The fear was building. The resentment. It was only a matter of time. Chen studied the man who had just stolen a planet. What now? Earth's safe, but there are still millions of humans scattered across Confederation space. Colony worlds, trading stations, research outposts. Which brings us to why I'm here. Chase activated a holographic display that filled the center of Chen's bridge. It showed the galaxy, all of it, from core to rim. Human settlements were marked in blue. Thousands of them, spread across hundreds of sectors. The Confederation gave our people 72 hours to evacuate. They're expecting us to simply abandon everything we've built outside the Sol system. Chase highlighted a cluster of colonies near the galactic center. They're wrong. The hologram shifted, showing fleet movements across the galaxy. Not just the Shadow Fleet, but other forces. Ships emerging from hiding places Chen hadn't known existed. Facilities that had been disguised as asteroid mines revealing themselves as military bases. The scope of the deception was staggering. Project Damocles wasn't just about hiding a fleet, Chase continued. It was about building an entire parallel civilization. Hidden colonies, secret shipyards, research stations that don't appear on any chart. For 3 centuries, while visible humanity played nice with the galaxy, invisible humanity was preparing for independence. Chen felt a chill of understanding. How many? 47 billion people in hidden facilities across the galaxy. Military personnel, scientists, engineers, their families. 3 centuries of recruitment from the best and brightest, all supposedly dead in various accidents or lost in space exploration missions. 47 billion. More people than currently lived on Earth itself. An entire shadow civilization, waiting for the moment when visible humanity would need them. The Confederation thinks they've contained us to one relocated planet, Chase said. They're about to discover they've been sharing the galaxy with a species that's been planning their own liberation for longer than most alien civilizations have had spaceflight. The implications were staggering. Human colonies that the Confederation thought they could simply occupy or evacuate. Except those colonies had backup. Hidden populations, secret defenses, technologies that 300 years of covert research had produced. What do you need from us? Chen asked. Legitimacy, Chase replied immediately. The Shadow Fleet has spent 3 centuries operating outside legal authority. We're technically pirates, rebels, criminals by any definition. But, you're the official Earth Defense Fleet. You have legal standing, recognized command authority, legitimate government backing. Chen understood immediately. You want me to legitimize your war. I want you to lead it. The offer hung in the air between them. Chen looked around her bridge at Rodriguez, barely out of the academy, at Webb, who'd served beside her for 20 years, at the crew who'd followed her into exile rather than surrender to alien occupation. They were all watching her, waiting for her decision. The Confederation has superior numbers, she said finally. Even with the Shadow Fleet, we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Numbers matter less when you can pick the time and place of every engagement, Chase replied. They have to defend everything, every trade route, every colony world, every strategic system. We only have to attack what we choose, when we choose. He highlighted targets on the galactic map. Isolated outposts, supply convoys, communication relays. Asymmetric warfare. Make the cost of occupying human space higher than the benefit. Force them to negotiate. And, if they don't negotiate? Chase's smile was cold. Then, we demonstrate that voting humanity out of the galaxy was a mistake. We show them what we're capable of when we stop pretending to be civilized. Chen looked at the holographic galaxy, seeing it with new eyes. Every blue dot was a human life, a human family, a human dream. The Confederation wanted to erase all of that, to pretend that 3 centuries of human expansion had never happened. Admiral Chase, she said formally, I hereby activate Emergency Protocol 7 of the Earth Defense Charter. In the absence of governmental authority, I assume command of all human military assets and declare a state of war against the Galactic Confederation. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then, Rodriguez began to smile. Webb straightened to attention. Across the fleet channels, Chen could hear the sound of 47 crews realizing they weren't refugees anymore. They were the advance guard of a liberation army. Priority 1, Chen announced to both fleets. Evacuation of human civilians from Confederation space. But, not retreat, relocation. Every human colony that wants independence gets it. Every human settlement that wants protection gets a Shadow Fleet detachment. Every human world that wants to join Earth in exile gets transportation. Chase nodded approvingly. The Confederation expects us to run. Instead, we'll give our people a choice. Stay and submit, or leave and remain free. Chen opened a channel to all human settlements across the galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. The Confederation has voted us out of galactic civilization. We reject this verdict. Any human colony, station, or settlement that wishes to remain free has 48 hours to signal for evacuation. We will come for you. All of you. The responses began immediately. Colony governors requesting immediate pickup. Research stations asking for military protection. Trading posts demanding the right to remain independent. Within an hour, over 3,000 human settlements had requested evacuation or defense. We're going to need a bigger fleet, Chen observed. Chase's smile was genuine this time. Admiral, we've been building ships for 300 years. The only question is how many of them you want to deploy at once. The war for human independence was about to begin in earnest. But, first, they had to save 9 million humans scattered across hostile space. The galaxy had voted them out. Now they would learn the difference between exile and exodus. And the difference between retreat and revolution.